Alrighty, hello everyone. So I tried sending this or my analysis basically in the morning, but when I got back home, I just saw this and it did not go through. So I'm redoing the whole analysis because H4 is going to close soon, so we can see what we can do and where we can monitor for any entries on a Monday. Now, a little disclaimer for those who are new to 1% Society, 1% Cloud Society. I don't trade on Mondays personally, but if you would like to, then you can. It's just not in my trading plan, okay? But if you are trading on Monday, then make sure that you are aware that the market can be slow and the volume can be very low and kind of wonky. So it's better to wait for the US session to happen for volume to flow in if you want to trade, okay? That's just advices and recommendations and suggestions, but you do you, so you can adjust and always try to progress your trading plan, okay? So for GJ, we start off with our sell zone up here and our buy zone down here. Our sell zone, we have an engulfing sell, meets engulfing sell, and another engulfing sell. So we know that the sellers are really trying to push price down below this high point. Okay, then we have our buy zone over here that has an engulfing buy. Then price came down, closed within, reacted on the key level itself, and pushed, but it did not create an engulfing buy. So this is just the zone that I will monitor for any potential bounces up. Okay, current price is over here. If I zoom in, let me just go down to M15 and show you. So on M15, GJ actually created an engulfing buy, failed in the process of failing, created an engulfing sell. So what we can do now is wait for M15 to actually come in to close within the zone, create an engulfing sell, then you can press. Then you will lower your risk on M15. If we switch to M5, you can see that it also created, well, we have a complete one up here for ABC on M5. Now, since we didn't catch that one, we can either wait for the price to retrace back into that zone or monitor over here. Okay, why am I monitoring this? This already had an engulfing buy that failed, created an engulfing sell, and another engulfing sell. Then we have another engulfing buy that failed over here, and price came back up, created the first engulfing sell. So potentially, price could come up in this M5 to create another engulfing sell, and it should reflect in the M15 itself. Okay, that's a potential. But if the volume wants to pick up over here, then potentially it might poke on this zone, still by the M15, to drop down even more, all right? Mind you that this is still around and in the key level. Okay, so it's a very strong zone that you can monitor if you want to enter GJ. Now we go back to H4. Sorry, let me just delete this. Now, that's just something that I'm giving you, like tips and tricks how to enter. Okay, so current price. If it decides to come up, respect our sell zone, meaning it does not break above, then potentially it could drop back down. But if it breaks above, then potentially it might want to test a higher zone. After breaking, the price can either shoot up in one go to the next zone or retrace back into the buy or to these key levels for a better buy up, okay? And vice versa. If it decides to drop into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. But if it breaks below, then we know it potentially could go even lower. All right, so monitor your entries again. What did I do? Monitor M5 and M15. Basically, just check out the zones that I've marked for you. Okay? Now we go to the next pair, GA. All right, GA, we have our sell zone, which is an engulfing buy that failed. In the process of failing, created an engulfing sell. Okay, then we have our buy zone over here that if we scroll back, had an engulfing sell, failed over here, price in the process of failing created an engulfing buy. Price came back again, really played around, then created the second engulfing buy. Okay, so we have our buy zones and sell zones. Again, let's screenshot this and see what it potentially can do. Excuse me. Current price, if it decides to respect the sell zone, then potentially it could drop back down. But if it breaks above the zone, then we know it potentially could go even higher, vice versa. If it drops into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially it could bounce back up. But if it breaks below, then potentially it might want to test a zone that is lower, like this. Where do you say your SLs? Just say your SLs at 40 pips from entry. Okay, so once you monitor around the key levels, you found a setup on either M15 or M5, you enter, then you just count 40 pips from there. All right. Last but not least, we have UJ, also one of my favorite pairs. Okay, sell zone, buy zone. Our sell zone is just an engulfing buy, failed. Price came back, really played around here, created is this the first engulfing sell? No, actually, because this closed above this low. So we have our first engulfing sell, our second engulfing sell, our third engulfing sell. So slowly we can see the sellers are really pushing the price down, down, down. Then we have our buy zone down here that I'm just monitoring for because it's a Monday. So Mondays, since we know that the market is slow, sometimes you won't see JPY pairs traveling more than 100 pips. Usually it's very fast, very quick. There are big movements. But taking into account that it is a Monday, if I were to sell over here, let's say H4 still respects this zone, it comes in and I either find an M15 or M5 setup and I press sell and it says, oh, it's going down in my direction, I will just TP right before this zone, right? Because I know it's an engulfing buy meets engulfing buy. But if we look at the trend, you can see that it is on a very heavy downtrend. So if you want to hold, right? If you want to hold for a potential that it might spike up from here to break the sellers over here, then you would TP some, then break even. All right, but from here to here already is 117 pips. So you can just set BE after it runs 20 pips, even TP everything over here. All right, so that's just how it potentially can go. Because if it decides to break this zone, although it's an engulfing buy, it's engulfing buy, we do have another engulfing buy here that was the lowest that was not only tested by this wick. So quite fresh-ish still. All right. So UJ, let's screenshot that. Excuse me. If it decides to respect our sell zone, then potentially we can catch a sell in either M5 or M15 down. But if it breaks above, then potentially it might want to test a higher zone. Vice versa, again, if it drops down into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. But if it breaks breaks below, then potentially it might want to test a lower zone like this. All right, so that's it for the 3 pairs. Please, again, trade smart, trade wisely. If you don't usually trade on Mondays, you can still mark and practice. And just monitor and observe how the price moves, especially on a Monday. And today we have no high impact news at all. So there might be movement, there might be not. It's for you to find out. Okay? I'll talk to you soon.